and welcome to the next in my series of videos that I'm making showing you how to make stuff. This particular one I'm going to show you how to crochet a dishcloth. Now this dishcloth is a very thick dishcloth for extra good scrubby powers. So if you like a thick dishcloth, this is definitely the one that you want to make. If you've never crocheted before, this is also a good video tutorial for you to watch because I'm going to show you how to do every single stitch that you're going to need. Whether it be how to chain to start it off, how to do the single crochet, where to put the hook in between the stitches, all of that good stuff. So you can crochet yourself a dishcloth even if you've never done it before. What you need to get is you need to have, hold on just a sec, you need to get a ball of 100% cotton yarn. It doesn't matter. You don't want to have a blend of any other fibers at all. You don't want to have a wool blend. If you use wool, it will felt over time and then you're just going to get this big bally mat of yuckiness that you don't want to have, especially if you're using any sort of hot water at all with your dishcloth. This particular stuff is a worsted weight. It comes in these lovely little balls. You can also get the larger balls pretty much anywhere that you would get this. You can get them at any big box store. Another place that you can get these that a lot of people don't think about is at secondhand stores, like I got this one. Paid exactly $1 for it, and there was a bunch of them, so I got a heck of a good deal. This particular stuff is a worsted weight yarn, 4-ply, if that's what you're interested in. It has 50 grams in it, or 1 3/4 ounces if you prefer to use that method of measuring. The crochet hook that I'm using is a size 8 crochet hook, size 5 if you are using the metric system. If you don't like to have a dishcloth that's really thick, if you prefer to have it a little more floppy, then you can use a larger crochet hook. It'll be a little more of a loose weave of it, and it'll be a little more pliable if you want. If you want to use this particular pattern as a hot plate, something to put hot things on so you don't ruin your cupboard or anything like that, then this will also work well for that too. Or if you need to take hot things out of the oven, it works really well for that. And another thing, this pattern is written out in full on my blog. There is a link down in the description that you can follow to get the pattern for this if you don't necessarily need to watch a complete tutorial and you already know how to crochet and you can just make it up for yourself. When I'm doing the pattern, I'm not necessarily going to tell you what the stitch counts are. Because this is a dishcloth, I don't want you to get all hung up on how many stitches it's supposed to be. Generally speaking, there's supposed to be 20 single crochets. If you don't have 20 single crochets, if you're a little bit short or if you have too many, it's okay. It's a dishcloth. This is a beginner pattern and you just want to create something that you can feel proud of that you made. If you're really one of those people who are, well, it has to be this way, you're watching the wrong video. I want you to have fun with this. I want you to do really well and feel very confident in what you're doing. I want you to make a bunch of these, give them away, and be like, I can do this, I'm awesome. So that's why I'm not talking about stitch count so much in this one. I'm just with no further ado, here we go. What you're going to do is you're going to want to wrap the yarn around your fingers a little bit so you can have control over the tension. Tension is one of those things that you want to have as far as when you're knitting or crocheting because it makes it for a more even stitch as you're doing them. And what you do is make a loop with your yarn and cross it over so the end part is over top of the long part that you're feeding through. And then you just hook it and you make a loop and then, I have to readjust, and then you just chain 42. Now when you chain your 42 chains, you'll have all of these in a nice long row. What you're going to do now is count back 4 chains. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're going to make a single crochet in that 4th chain. You don't count the chain that's on your hook. I've never run into a pattern that actually does, so I didn't for this one either. So you make your single crochet and you chain 1. Then you're going to skip a chain and you're going to make a single crochet into that next chain. Then you're going to keep making one chain, skipping a chain, and then single crocheting in the next chain. Now, it's good to remember when you're doing this, as a beginner project, you're not really going to be able to screw this up too badly. Even if you drop some stitches someplace, or you don't do enough, or you do too many, you're not going to end up with something that you can't use. It may not look as nice as you want, but it's not necessarily going to be a bad thing either. You can always use it, right? And worst case scenario, if it doesn't turn out, crocheting is one of those things that's very, very forgiving as far as redoing stuff. You can always take it apart and do it again. Just wrap it up into a ball as you take the thread apart or the yarn apart, and you'll have a lovely ball that you can start all over with. But in general, I wouldn't worry about it too much. It's a dishcloth, unless you're giving it away as a gift or something and you want it to be extra nice, then maybe you do, but I don't know. I think it's kind of nice when things have flaws in them. Nothing's perfect, so you might as well try your best and give it from your heart. I think that's the best thing to do. Sometimes when you're doing crochet, you'll mess up a little bit on the end and you'll have one or two extra chains that you didn't necessarily mean to have on there. Now that could be for a couple of reasons. It could be you counted wrong when you were making your chains. You didn't start in the right place when you were starting your first row of crocheting. You may have skipped an extra chain or made a single crochet in a chain right next to one and not skipped if you were supposed to. Anyway, when that happens, there's no need to panic. Crocheting is one of the most forgiving things you can ever do. Just take that last knot apart and you can undo any extra chains that may be on there and it won't fall apart. Trust me, I have done that more times than I care to admit, so I won't have that long hangy end on things, and it never ever comes apart. Okay, that's my little word of advice. So now what we're going to do, now that we're at the very end and we've done our very first row, is we're going to chain two. Yes, Mr. 7 has decided to come and contribute to this pattern also and tutorial. He's such a lovely kitty. He's always so helpful. Okay, so we're going to chain two, and what you're going to do is single crochet in that space between the two single crochets of that first row you made. So when you were making your single crochet, chain one, single crochet, you're going to single crochet in that chain spot of the last row that you just did. Now all you need to do is chain one and single crochet in between the single crochets. Chain one, single crochet between the single crochets. And you just keep doing that all the way down to the end. Oops. Sometimes the threads will separate from each other and you will make a crochet in between them. Like I said, for the dishcloth, you're not going to be too concerned about that. If you're doing something nicer, something a little more based on looks, like a sweater or a scarf or something, you're going to want to really watch that and make sure that you don't split your threads at all or split the yarn, because the split yarn looks kind of weird when it's all said and done. You can tell that it's an off stitch when you're finished. So you're going to keep going down the line, chaining one and single crocheting in the next chain one space of the row you previously made. Now we're at the very, very end of our row, and what you're going to see is that you're going to have the chain fours from when you first started this project. So you're going to chain one on the last one, and this time you instead of single crocheting in between the single crochets, you're going to put a single crochet through that chain that you made when you first started. So now you have your single crochet, you're going to chain two and you're going to turn it. And when you turn, it doesn't matter if you're turning it towards yourself or away from yourself, it really doesn't matter. You're sort of going to develop whichever way that you feel is best for you. Yeah. So now we have our chain two. You're going to single crochet in between the single crochets, just like you did the last time. Chain one, single crochet in between your single crochets, chain one, single crochet, chain one, single crochet, and you're going to do that all the way down the line again to the very end. Alright, so we're getting down to the very end. So I did my single crochet, I'm going to chain 1, and this time the space is a little smaller than it was on the other end, but with those 2 chain 2s that we did from the previous row, you're going to now single crochet in that spot between the chain 2s and the single crochet. And then you're going to chain 2, turn, and now we're just going to repeat that same process over and over and over again. So chain 2, single crochet between the single crochets, chain 1, single crochet, and we go all the way down the line again. So now I am not going to make a whole dishcloth because in all honesty I have a bunch of these right now. When you make these, they tend to last nearly forever. I have some dishcloths that I've made with this particular pattern that I've literally had for 3 years and they're still going strong. These things last nearly forever. Okay, so when you're done, you're going to want to have it as square as you possibly can. If it's not, that's totally fine. Make it the size that you want. I kind of, when I do it, sort of go by how much yarn is left. I find it easier to sort of gauge that way about how big I'm going to make it or how long. If I have a hankering and I really feel the need that I have to have a square one, well then if I have leftovers, that's fine. It doesn't really bother me to have leftovers. You can always use them in another project, and later on if you're so inclined you can make like a stripy dishcloth with all the leftover little chunks that you have, but then you have a lot of ends to work in and that's not always necessarily a good thing. So when you get to however big you want to have your dishcloth, bigger than this hopefully, this is not going to be very successful. What I'm going to show you how to do is work in the end when you're finished, but when you're done you're going to want to have your hook on this end and the thread that you started with on this end, just so I can show you how to work in this end so you don't have to use a needle to get it through. Okay, so with this you're just going to want to end with the single crochet at the end. What we're going to do now is a backward single crochet. It's the same as a regular crochet, but instead of working from your right to your left, you're going to work from your left to your right. It makes a more loopy kind of rope kind of edging, which I personally prefer compared to a single crochet edge, but that's just me. If you don't want to watch this or you need some extra help with it, I have a specific video showing how to do a backward single crochet. It's on a knitted thing, it's on a knitted dishcloth, which I also have the pattern for, but generally speaking it'll sort of show you how to do it. One thing when you're doing it is you're going to do the single crochet, the backward single crochet in every other stitch because it's a bit of a longer stitch, so you don't need to have it in every single stitch as you're going down the line. And pull your loops a little looser than you normally would because it just gives you a little leeway to work with when you're trying to do it. So now you're going to have your loop and you're going to go into your second stitch back and just pull it through the best you can to crochet it. And so you hook it, pull it through, loop it, pull it through your loops. Pretty much, and you're going to do that over and over again. And you may have to watch a little more closely where you're putting your hook in, just because it's kind of an awkward angle to be doing it from. So you put your hook through the stitch, hook your yarn, pull it up, and through the 2 loops. So through, so hook through the stitch, hook your yarn, pull it through the stitch, hook your yarn, pull it through the loops. Stitch, hook, hook, loops. And then you just keep going down the length of your dishcloth. I'm done there. Well, hello, kitty. Are you coming to help me yet again? Kind of. You're not so inclined. There's a lovely piece of paper you can come up here and lay on. I'm sure you would enjoy that. Well, hello! How are you? So now that I'm down all the way to the length of my dishcloth, you only need to put 1 stitch in your corners. Because the stitch is so loose, it takes up quite a bit of room and will work around the corner just fine without making it look all strange. And when you are doing it along the edge, you're going to want to put your hook through every other row. Once again, because it's longer and it just sort of makes it lay a little bit nicer and neater. All right, so that was a really short row for me. See, it's only that long. Now I'm going to show you how to put this length of yarn to the back of your work so you don't have to sew it in at the end. I personally hate sewing in ends, so anytime I can sort of do a cheat and do it, it's all fine by me. So when you're working on the starting edge of your dishcloth, you're just going to go in your stitches. It's going to be a little more holy, I guess, than the one that you did at the top, but it still looks okay. So you take your end that you have here, just hold it to the back of your work, put your hook through, and hold this sort of in between your two fingers a little bit, so it's out of the way but still going to get hooked by the yarn when you pull it through, and just work your stitch like you normally would. Is you put it through the stitch, make sure that the yarn is on top of your hook, so it's laying over the top. Grab your working end of yarn, pull it through, and then this will be caught by the yarn, and you just work those two stitches as you normally would. And if you can't get a hang of how to work your yarn in as you're going, it doesn't really matter. It's fairly easy to sew in at the end anyway. So put it through the stitch, making sure that this end is laying on top of your hook, and just do the stitches you normally would. And you only need to do that maybe 4 or 5 times to make sure that that end is secure. It doesn't really need to be any more than that. And then when you're done working it in, you just hold it out of the way and keep going down the line doing your backward single crochet. Alright, when you get to the end, you'll see it's kind of, the first stitch is sort of laying over a little bit, a little farther than you possibly would like it to be. What I always do is I just do a backward single crochet right into that same stitch as I did before and work the stitch, and then you are finished. And I once again forgot my scissors. One of the things about this crochet cotton that's really surprising, it's not very strong at all, but when you put it together in a dishcloth like this, they're actually surprisingly resilient to work and wear and tear. So break it and then just pull it through. And I'll show you in a close-up way how to work in this end better. It's actually very straightforward. Just thread this onto your needle and go through the front of the next stitch where I have shown you to do it in the tutorial. So there you go, that's that. Boop, boop. And then you are done. You have a washcloth that is functional, not basically a scarf for a Barbie. Anyway, with that, thank you very much for watching my latest video. If you're a fan of crocheting, by all means, I do have other crochet patterns and things that I have on various places. You can find all of my crochet patterns throughout all sorts of distributors. I'm on Google Play now, so you can get my patterns through Google Books. All of my patterns are on iTunes. The ones for sale are on Amazon. I'm on Barnes & Noble. All of my patterns are for sure on my blog or on my website. You can go and check either one of those out. There is a link down below in the description where you can find a link to a page specifically of all my crochet patterns that I have. I have done a number of jewelry patterns that you can crochet. I've got a slipper pattern over there. I have, well, this pattern. I've got some different sort of things that you can crochet. The list is always growing based on what I'm creating and developing, which is always an ongoing process. Don't forget to subscribe if you're on YouTube. I would love to have more subscribers to my channel. I plan on coming up with a lot more videos. Now that I've got some decent equipment, I'm really excited about getting started on stuff and making some really cool, neat things. Anyway, time's a-wasting. Got some things to do, so have yourself a great day and happy crocheting!